My name is Alexis, and one rainy morning in Seattle, I thought I was going to die. The pain hit like a freight train, a sharp, twisting agony in my side that dropped me to my knees on the cold kitchen floor. I clutched my stomach, gasping, as my 6-year-old daughter, Aurora, hovered nearby, her big brown eyes wide with fear. "Mommy, are you okay?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I forced a smile, trying to shield her from the truth. "Just a tummy ache, sweetheart," I lied, each word a struggle against the waves of pain. But deep down, I knew this was no ordinary stomachache. Something was terribly wrong. The kitchen, usually a warm haven filled with Aurora's laughter and the smell of coffee, felt like a prison that morning. Rain pattered against the windows, and the gray Seattle sky mirrored the dread pooling in my chest. I'd been feeling off for days, but this was different, sharp, relentless, like a knife carving through me. Aurora's small hand touched my shoulder, and I wanted to be strong for her, to tell her everything would be fine. But the truth was, I could barely move. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, and my husband, Lucas, appeared in the doorway, his suitcase already in hand. He was dressed sharply, his jaw set, ready for his weekend getaway with his sister, Chloe. His green eyes flicked over me, sprawled on the floor, and instead of concern, I saw annoyance flash across his face. "What's going on, Alexis? Why are you on the floor?" he asked, his tone sharp, like I was an inconvenience interrupting his plans. "I think it's appendicitis, Lucas," I gasped, each word punctuated by a jolt of pain. "It's bad. We need to get to the hospital." My voice was weak, but I hoped he'd hear the urgency, see the fear in my eyes. Instead, he scoffed, rolling his eyes like I was being dramatic. "Appendicitis? Come on, it's probably just something you ate. You're overreacting." His words stung, but the pain in my side was louder, drowning out everything else. "Lucas, please," I pleaded, wincing as another wave hit. "I can't move. Aurora's here. I need you." My voice cracked, raw with desperation. Aurora's hand tightened in mine, her small body trembling. But Lucas just checked his watch, his impatience practically radiating off him. "I can't miss this trip with Chloe," he said, his voice cold. "Just call a taxi or something. You'll be fine." And with that, he turned, his suitcase wheels scraping against the hardwood as he walked out the door. I stared after him, disbelief mingling with the pain. The front door slammed, and the sound echoed in my chest like a gunshot. He'd left us, when I needed him most. Aurora's tears fell silently, her face pressed against my arm. "Mommy, don't be sick," she whispered. "You have to be okay." I pulled her close, her warmth a small anchor in the storm of betrayal. "I'm here, baby," I murmured, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Mommy's here." But I wasn't okay. The pain was unbearable now, and I knew I couldn't wait. With shaking hands, I fumbled for my phone, nearly dropping it as I dialed the one person I could always count on, my brother, Nicholas. He was a firefighter in Tacoma, just a short drive away, and he'd always been my rock, especially after our parents' divorce when I was a kid. The phone rang, each tone stretching into eternity. When he picked up, his voice was like a lifeline. "Alexis? What's wrong?" "Nicholas," I choked out, tears mixing with the pain. "It's appendicitis, I think. I can't move, and Lucas, he left. Aurora's scared. I need you." There was a beat of stunned silence, then Nicholas's voice came through, steady and strong. "I'm on my way, Alexis. Hold on. I'll be there as soon as I can." I hung up, leaning back against the cold tiles, my eyes closing as I tried to breathe through the pain. Aurora curled up beside me, her small body a reminder of why I had to keep going. Lucas's abandonment wasn't just a betrayal of me, it was a betrayal of her, too. As I waited for Nicholas, a fire sparked inside me, fueled by anger and hurt. I'd spent years swallowing Lucas's neglect, excusing his priorities. But this was different. This was a line crossed, a wound too deep to ignore. Things would never be the same, and as the pain pulsed through me, one thing was clear. I was going to make sure of it. Growing up in Portland, I'd always dreamed of a stable, loving family. My parents' divorce left me craving security, and when I met Lucas, his charm and confidence seemed like the answer. He was the golden boy of his wealthy Seattle family, always the center of attention. But over time, his priorities shifted. Chloe, his sister, became his focus, her demands always trumping our family's needs. I'd ignored the red flags, convincing myself it was normal, that I could make it work for Aurora's sake. But lying on that kitchen floor, abandoned in my moment of crisis, I saw the truth. I'd been invisible in my own marriage for far too long. Nicholas arrived in what felt like both an eternity and a heartbeat. His broad frame filled the doorway, his firefighter's calm masking the worry in his eyes. "Alexis, I'm here," he said, kneeling beside me. He scooped me up gently, his strength a stark contrast to Lucas's indifference, and helped me to his truck. Aurora clung to my hand, her fear palpable, but Nicholas's presence reassured her. "We're going to the hospital, kiddo," he told her softly. "Mom's gonna be okay." The drive to the hospital was a blur of pain and nausea, but Nicholas's steady voice kept me grounded. He called ahead, ensuring a team was ready when we arrived. As they wheeled me into the emergency room, Aurora's tear-streaked face was the last thing I saw before the world faded. The diagnosis came quickly: appendicitis, requiring immediate surgery. Nicholas stayed with Aurora, promising to keep her safe while I went under. As the anesthesia took hold, one thought lingered. Lucas had chosen Chloe over us, and that betrayal would change everything. The hospital room was a sterile cocoon, all white walls and soft beeps, but it felt oddly comforting after the chaos of that morning. I woke groggy from surgery, my side aching but the sharp, twisting pain gone. Appendicitis, the doctors confirmed, caught just in time. Physically, I was on the mend, but emotionally, I was raw, Lucas's abandonment a wound that throbbed worse than any incision. Aurora was with my parents in Portland, safe and cared for, but I missed her fiercely. Lying there, staring at the ceiling, I replayed Lucas's cold dismissal, his suitcase rolling out the door, his scoff at my pain. It wasn't just this moment. It was years of being sidelined, always coming second to Chloe's demands. I'd met Lucas in my early 20s, dazzled by his confidence and the promise of a life together. He was the kind of guy who lit up a room, and I thought that light would shine on me, too. But Chloe, his sister, was a constant presence, always needing his time, his attention, his loyalty. She'd call him for every crisis, real or imagined, and he'd drop everything, our plans, our family, to run to her side. I'd bite my tongue, telling myself it was temporary, that he'd see how it hurt us. But that morning on the kitchen floor, with Aurora crying and me begging, I saw the truth. Lucas would never choose us first. Nicholas visited daily, bringing coffee and updates on Aurora. "She's drawing you pictures," he said one afternoon, his smile warm but his eyes heavy with anger at Lucas. "She's tough, like her mom." His support kept me grounded, reminding me of the family I could count on. My parents, too, called constantly, their voices laced with concern and questions about Lucas they didn't dare ask outright. I hadn't told them the full story yet, how he'd left me writhing in pain, but I knew I'd have to soon. The weight of that truth was too heavy to carry alone. Back home a few days later, the physical pain was a dull reminder of my ordeal, but the emotional ache was sharper. Aurora ran into my arms when I walked through the door, her small body a burst of warmth. "Mommy, you're back," she squealed, her smile lighting up our Seattle apartment. "Are you all better?" I hugged her tightly, her question tugging at my heart. "Getting there, sweetheart," I said, kissing her forehead. Our home, with its cozy mismatched furniture and Aurora's artwork on the walls, felt both familiar and foreign. Lucas's absence hung in the air, a silent accusation. I spent those days reflecting, pacing the living room as Aurora played nearby. Our marriage hadn't always been this way. In the beginning, Lucas was attentive, his charm making me feel seen. But Chloe's influence grew, her need for control pulling him away. She'd call him to fix her problems, her car, her fights with friends, her endless dramas, and he'd go, leaving me to handle Aurora, the house, everything. I'd convinced myself it was my job to keep the peace, to be the understanding wife. But now, with the memory of his cold call, a taxi echoing in my mind, I saw how much I'd sacrificed. My happiness, my dignity, my voice, all buried under Lucas's neglect. The anger grew quietly, like a fire smoldering beneath the surface. I wasn't just angry at Lucas. I was angry at myself for staying silent so long. Aurora deserved better. A mother who fought for her, who showed her what strength looked like. I started imagining a life without Lucas's shadow, one where I wasn't constantly waiting for him to choose us. The thought was terrifying but exhilarating, like standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to leap. Nicholas stopped by one evening, his firefighter's jacket slung over his shoulder. "You doing okay, sis?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I nodded, but the truth spilled out. He left us, Nicholas. I was dying on that floor, and he walked away. My voice cracked, tears I'd held back for days spilling over. Nicholas pulled me into a hug, his strength steadying me. "You don't need him, Alexis. You've got Aurora, you've got us. You're stronger than you know." His words planted a seed, a resolve that grew with every passing hour. I knew Lucas and Chloe would be back soon, their weekend getaway over. The thought of facing them made my stomach churn, not with fear, but with a burning need to speak my truth. I wasn't the same woman who'd begged for Lucas's help on the kitchen floor. That Alexis was gone, replaced by someone ready to fight for her life, for Aurora, for a future where we weren't invisible. As I tucked Aurora into bed, her soft snores filling the room, I made a promise to myself. When Lucas walked through that door, he'd face a reckoning. The front door slammed open the next morning, shattering the quiet of our Seattle apartment. Lucas stormed in, Chloe trailing behind, their voices loud with complaints. "Alexis, why didn't you pick us up yesterday?" Lucas barked, tossing his suitcase aside. "We had to shell out for a taxi and train fares. Total hassle." His entitlement hit me like a slap, and I felt the smoldering anger from the past few days ignite into a blaze. I stood in the living room, my arms crossed, meeting his gaze with a glare that stopped him cold. "Welcome back," I said, my voice icy. "Must have been tough, huh?" Chloe, in her designer coat, froze, her usual confidence faltering as she sensed the tension. Lucas's brow furrowed, his annoyance shifting to confusion. "What's with the attitude, Alexis?" I couldn't hold it in any longer. "While you were off enjoying your little trip, I was in the hospital," I said, my voice steady but laced with fury. "Appendicitis, Lucas. I could have died, and you left me on the kitchen floor with Aurora crying beside me." My words hung in the air, sharp and unyielding. Lucas's mouth opened, then closed, his usual charm failing him. Chloe's face reddened, her eyes darting away. "What are you talking about? You're fine now, right?" Lucas said, his tone dismissive, as if my pain was a minor inconvenience. His words were gasoline on my fire. "It's not about being fine, Lucas," I shot back, stepping closer. "It's about being there when your family needs you. You chose Chloe over us, again." I turned to Chloe, who flinched under my gaze. "And you, always demanding his time, never caring what it costs Aurora or me." Before Lucas could respond, the living room door opened. Nicholas walked in, followed by my parents and Lucas's parents, their faces a mix of anger and disappointment. The air grew thick, the weight of their collective judgment pinning Lucas and Chloe in place. "Why is everyone here?" Lucas asked, his voice faltering, his usual bravado crumbling. I took a deep breath, channeling my pain into words. "Lucas, you left me and Aurora when we needed you most. I was in surgery, fighting for my life, and you were nowhere to be found. I've told our families everything." My voice didn't waver, each word a brick in the wall I was building between us. Lucas shrank, his eyes darting for an ally but finding none. Chloe shifted uncomfortably, her usual poise gone. "It's not just this, Lucas," Nicholas added, his voice low but cutting. "It's every time you've put Chloe's needs above your family's. You've let Alexis and Aurora down too many times." My parents nodded, their silence louder than words. Lucas's parents, usually so proud of their son, looked at him with disappointment, their eyes heavy with unspoken regret. Lucas tried to rally, his voice rising with excuses. "This is ridiculous. I didn't know it was that serious." Alexis's always been dramatic. His words were weak, a desperate attempt to deflect. Chloe chimed in, her voice shrill. You can't blame us for this. Alexis, you're blowing it out of proportion. But their defenses fell flat, drowned out by the truth in the room. The confrontation was electric, the tension crackling like a storm. For me, it was a turning point. I'd spent years swallowing Lucas's neglect, making excuses for him, but no more. Seeing him squirm under our family's gazes, I felt a surge of strength. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for Aurora, for the life she deserved. As the families left, Lucas's parents gave me a look of sympathy, a silent acknowledgement of their son's failures. Chloe slipped out, avoiding my eyes, her confidence shattered. That night, alone in my bedroom, I replayed the confrontation. The anger was still there, but it was tempered by a growing sense of power. Lucas's betrayal had exposed his true character, and I was done living in his shadow. Aurora's laughter drifted from her room, a reminder of what mattered most. I knew what I had to do. The decision was forming, solid and unyielding, like a rock in a raging river. Lucas thought he could dismiss me, but he was about to learn how wrong he was. The days after the confrontation were heavy, the air in our Seattle apartment thick with unspoken words. Lucas acted like nothing had changed, lounging on the couch, flipping through TV channels with that same careless arrogance. But I was different. The woman who'd begged for his help on the kitchen floor was gone, replaced by someone ready to fight for her life. I'd spent too long shrinking to fit his world, and I was done. One evening, as the rain tapped against the windows, I walked into the living room, a folder in my hand. My heart pounded, but my resolve was iron. Lucas, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady. He glanced up, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. What now, Alexis? He asked, his tone dripping with condescension. I handed him the folder, my hand steady despite the storm inside me. I want a divorce. The words landed like a thunderclap, and for a moment, the room was silent. Lucas stared at me, his expression shifting from disbelief to mockery. Divorce? Don't be ridiculous, Alexis. You're overreacting as usual. His laugh was cold, meant to cut, but I didn't flinch. I'm not overreacting, I said, stepping closer, my voice unwavering. I've thought this through. You've put Chloe and yourself above Aurora and me for years. I was in the hospital, Lucas, and you walked away. I won't live like this anymore. My words were a release, each one stripping away the weight of years spent feeling invisible. Lucas's face twisted into a sneer. You think you can manage on your own? Don't be naive, Alexis. You'll fall apart without me. His words were meant to wound, to make me doubt myself, but they only fueled my fire. I'd rather face that uncertainty than stay with someone who makes me feel worthless, I shot back. I'm done being invisible. He laughed again, a harsh sound, but I saw a flicker of unease in his eyes. Good luck, Alexis. You'll come crawling back when you realize how hard it is out there. He turned back to the TV, dismissing me, but I stood my ground. I won't, I said, my voice calm but firm. This is my decision, and I'm sticking to it. For a moment, he looked like he might argue, but then he shrugged, his arrogant smirk returning. Fine, have it your way. But don't say I didn't warn you. I walked away, my heart racing but my spirit soaring. Fear was there, yes, the uncertainty of single motherhood, the financial strain, the judgment I might face. But stronger than the fear was a sense of freedom, like I'd finally broken chains I hadn't realized were holding me. I was taking control, not just for me, but for Aurora, who deserved a mother who showed her what strength looked like. The next day, I started the legal proceedings. The process was daunting, paperwork, lawyers, endless details, but I tackled it with a determination I hadn't known I possessed. Nicholas and my parents were my anchors, offering support and encouragement. You're doing the right thing, Nicholas said one evening, helping me sort through forms. Aurora needs to see you stand up for yourself. His words bolstered me, reminding me of the bigger picture. Lucas, true to form, was uncooperative, dragging his feet and making snide remarks during our meetings. You'll regret this, Alexis, he'd say, his tone dripping with disdain. You're not cut out for this. But his words, once so debilitating, now bounced off me. I saw them for what they were, desperate attempts to keep control. With every step forward, I felt stronger, more certain. I wasn't just leaving Lucas. I was reclaiming myself. Aurora, bless her heart, sensed the change. One night, as I tucked her into bed, she looked up at me, her eyes serious. "Mommy, are you happy now?" she asked. The question caught me off guard, but I smiled, brushing her hair back. "I'm getting there, sweetheart," I said. "And I'll always be here for you." Her small nod, full of trust, was all the fuel I needed to keep going. As the weeks passed, Lucas's facade began to crack. The charming, confident man I'd married was unraveling, his selfishness laid bare. I heard whispers from mutual friends. His colleagues were starting to see through his charm, their respect for him fading. My cousin, Lauren, a community organizer in Seattle, made sure the truth about Lucas's actions spread, not out of spite, but because she believed in justice. Lucas, who'd always prided himself on his image, was starting to feel the weight of his choices. For me, the decision to divorce wasn't just about ending a marriage, it was about starting a new life. Each step through the legal maze was a testament to my strength, a reminder that I was no longer the woman who'd lain helpless on the kitchen floor. I was Alexis, mother to Aurora, sister to Nicholas, and a woman ready to write her own story. The day the divorce was finalized, I walked out of the Seattle courthouse into a drizzle that felt more like a cleanse than a burden. The papers were signed, the marriage was over, and I was free. Relief washed over me, but so did apprehension. The road ahead was uncharted, a mix of possibility and challenge. Yet, as I stood under the gray sky, I felt a spark of hope. I'd fought for this moment for Aurora, for myself, and I was ready to face whatever came next. Lucas's life, meanwhile, was unraveling. Word of our divorce and his abandonment spread through our Seattle community, thanks to my cousin, Lauren, whose connections ensured the truth wasn't buried. Lucas, once the charming golden boy, was now the subject of whispered conversations and sideways glances. His colleagues at his tech firm, who'd once admired his charisma, now saw the selfishness beneath. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved back in with his parents, a blow to his pride he tried to hide but couldn't. His reputation, so carefully curated, was in tatters. Chloe faced her own fallout. Her meddling in our marriage, once a point of pride, now made her a pariah. Friends and neighbors distanced themselves, their trust in her eroded. The bond she'd shared with Lucas, once unbreakable, was now strained. I overheard them arguing one afternoon outside their parents' house, picking up Aurora from a visit. "This is your fault, Chloe," Lucas shouted, his voice raw with frustration. "You pushed me into this mess." Chloe's retort was sharp, her usual poise gone. "Don't blame me. You're the one who couldn't keep your family together." Their united front had crumbled, their selfishness turning on them like a boomerang. For me, life settled into a new rhythm, quieter but fuller. I landed a job at a small accounting firm in Seattle, run by a woman named Karen who understood the challenges of working motherhood. The firm's supportive environment was a lifeline, and the steady income gave me confidence. The gap in my resume from years spent raising Aurora had worried me, but Karen saw my determination and gave me a chance. I dove into the work, finding purpose in the numbers and routine. Aurora adapted with the resilience of childhood. She started kindergarten, her days filled with new friends and stories that spilled out when I picked her up. "Mommy, I made a painting today," she'd say, her eyes bright. Her laughter filled our apartment, chasing away the ghosts of tension that had lingered during Lucas's time. We built new traditions, Saturday pancake mornings, walks along the Seattle waterfront, her small hand in mine as we watched the ferries glide across Puget Sound. These moments were our foundation, the bricks of a life we were building together. The echoes of my past with Lucas didn't vanish entirely. One afternoon, dropping Aurora off at school, I overheard parents whispering, "That's Alexis. Her husband left her because he couldn't stand her." The word stung, but I held my head high. Gossip was a small price to pay for freedom. I'd learned to tune out the noise, to focus on what mattered, Aurora's smile, Nicholas's support, the life I was carving out. Nicholas had moved closer to us, renting a place in Seattle to be nearby. His presence was a comfort, his firefighters' calm a steadying force. My parents doted on Aurora, driving up from Portland to spend weekends with her, their love a balm for the wounds of the past. One evening, as I sipped coffee in my kitchen, I reflected on the journey. The pain of Lucas's betrayal, the fear of starting over, it had all led me here, to a place of strength and peace. I wasn't the woman who'd collapsed on the kitchen floor. I was stronger, surer, ready to face the world. Then, one rainy afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Lucas standing there, his shoulders slumped, his face etched with defeat. "Alexis, I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. His apology was a shadow of the man I'd known, but it changed nothing. I looked at him, the weight of our history between us, and felt only closure. "Thank you, Lucas," I said, my voice steady, but not unkind. "But it's too late. I've moved on." I closed the door, the sound soft but final, shutting out the past. Aurora's voice called from the living room, pulling me back to the present. "Mommy, come see my drawing." I smiled, walking toward her, my heart full. The road ahead wasn't easy, single motherhood, bills, the occasional sting of gossip, but I was ready. I'd fought for my dignity, for Aurora's future, and I'd won. To everyone listening to my story, thank you. Thank you for walking this journey with me, for feeling the pain and the triumph. Your support means everything, and I hope my story reminds you that no matter how dark it gets, you can find your strength, rewrite your story, and step into a future full of hope. Aurora and I are proof of that, and we're just getting started.